Alright guys, welcome to the first video on this new channel. I'm going to be doing a 2,000 mile review and just give you my thoughts after a year of ownership of this Talaria MX3 and hopefully help you decide whether you should buy one or not. So right off the bat, this is the 2024 model of the MX3. I've had it for over a year, 2,000 miles, and I just want to get it out of the way. I absolutely love this bike. I've had basically no large issues. Now, first off, I'm just gonna go over a couple things that they changed on the 2024 model from the previous models of the MX3, the Talaria Sting. This bike is basically an MX4 with a slightly weaker motor, battery, and controller. So originally, I think the original MX3 came with 203mm rotors. This has the MX4's 220mm rotors, so more stopping power. They're still mountain bike brakes, but a lot better than the smaller rotors they came with before. The newer model also comes with Talaria factory suspension, so it's not going to be the, I think it was either Fast Ace or D&M suspension that the original Talaria Sting came with. So you're going to get the factory suspension from the MX4, much better. I've had no issues with these. Honestly, it feels just like a real dirt bike. It's fantastic. We have a rebound and a dampening adjustment on both shocks. Rebound and your preload. Yeah, they feel fantastic. Honestly, no complaints suspension wise. A couple more things they changed. This is a newer controller. It's supposed to be a little bit more reliable. It has a snappier throttle response. It's just gonna all around be a lot better than the original Sting, but it's still a little bit weaker than the MX4, and that's shown in the price, obviously. So next, I want to say all the issues that I've had with this bike. The main issue that I've had is finding like cheaper aftermarket parts. So I wanted to get some cheaper pegs. Honestly, I'm not going to spend $100 for a hunk of metal. And I found these on Amazon. They said they would fit the Talaria. They technically do, but they did require a little bit of modification. If you just install them the way you get them, they're going to sag down like this. What I've done is I've just glued a quarter back in there as a spacer, and it seems to keep them pretty much level. And that's worked for now. Honestly, I prefer that over spending like $110 plus shipping for the Warp 9 ones. They look nice, but honestly, it's not really worth it. Next up, I've got some upgraded ODI grips. Honestly, I didn't install them correctly, so they are sliding around a bit. As you can see, this one I had the waffle part facing straight down, and now it has twisted quite a bit. So I definitely recommend using some hairspray or something to keep those on. I have added a aftermarket light. This one I just found on eBay. I think it was 20 bucks. It looks like the E-Ride Pro lights. Honestly, it works great. Had no issues there. Then the brakes. So the brakes are one of the main complaints I see with these bikes. It's a huge bike for having basically mountain bike brakes. Honestly, I haven't had many issues with them. I replaced the pads with some semi metallic pads. They work fine. I've bled the brakes a couple of times. I think the main issue is just the stock pads and the stock brake fluid. Try and find like a high quality mountain bike brake fluid that has a higher boil point. The oil and all the fluids that they use on this bike are actually very cheap. To be honest, they really skimped out on the fluids, and that includes the gearbox fluid, which I have changed twice so far in 2,000 miles. So per Talaria's instructions, I think it's once after like 500 miles after you get the bike. Don't quote me on that, that might be slightly off. And then you can wait up to apparently like 4,000 miles or something ridiculous like that. To be honest, I don't trust that, so I've been doing it every 1,000 miles, so I've done it twice. And I've been using, I believe it's AMSOIL. They make a gear oil that I've been throwing in there. I can throw a picture up on screen, but it's obviously going to be a lot better quality than the Chinese crap that Talaria puts in there from the factory. So, torque on this bike. Honestly, I'm not a huge wheelie guy. I mostly just take this thing on trails and ride around the area, but it will do wheelies very easily. Honestly, the torque is comparable to like a 250 or maybe like a 125 in the power band. Feels fantastic. I absolutely love this bike. I really would recommend it to anybody. So one of the main things that I get asked is, should I buy this or save up for the MX4? And to be honest, I would probably save up for the MX4 just for the added power. But for the price, you're getting basically just a detuned MX4, slightly worse motor. I believe this is a Hall sensor motor, and the MX4 has some, I don't know the exact terminology, but the MX4 does have a better motor. But otherwise, I would recommend this bike any day. The MX4 is a great bike as well, but with the upgrades they've done in the recent years, including the upgraded brakes, bigger rotors, the what else have they done? Suspension, of course. The suspension is all redone, and the controller is completely different. I would definitely recommend this bike, 100%. Yeah, so top speed GPS on this thing is about like 48 miles an hour. On the speedometer, it says it's going 53, 52, but that's not exactly true, even with the correct gear ratio on the unit. And mileage. So mileage is another question I get asked all the time. If I'm in eco and I'm not pinning it in eco tops out at around like 26, 27 miles an hour. If I'm just going between like 15 and max speed in eco, I can squeeze this thing over 40 miles easily. But in sport mode, just going all out, as much throttle as I can, as often as I can. I live in a hilly area too, so it's definitely a little more taxing on the battery. I can probably get around 20, 25 miles if I'm just going all out. But yeah, if you're using this thing as a commuter, it's fantastic. Another thing is I wear boots when I ride, not now, but what happens is your boots, or at least the metal loops on your boots, will scrape the side of the frame here. So I just installed a couple of the factory stickers to try and avoid the frame scraping right here. It's all cosmetic. It has no structural impact. So honestly, the sticker kit, in my opinion, looked pretty bad. I like the black look, so I only installed the necessary stickers where I saw wear on the bike previously. But yeah, I mean, there's not much else to say about this bike. It's basically just a detuned MX4 at this point with the new suspension and the upgraded brakes. I am honestly so happy. If I could buy one upgrade right now, it would probably be the rear moto brake that actually uses DOT fluid. I have had brake fade happen a couple of times during heavy riding, which, to be honest, on these bikes is very common. It's a very thin rotor and it's a tiny caliper, so the heat really has nowhere to dissipate. Floating rotors would probably help quite a bit, but I'd rather just spend the $300 from EVR to get the moto kit. So yeah, I'm probably just gonna take it on a little ride for you guys, maybe do a little speed test. This isn't a very put together review, to be honest. This is just me giving you my thoughts and spitballing in one take. But hopefully I helped you decide on what bike you want to get. Honestly, MX4 and MX5, if you have the money and you want the power, 100%. But this has been a fantastic beginner bike. I'm very glad that I chose this over the Triple X, because when I was shopping, it was either this or the Triple X. And I'm a bigger dude, I'm 6'2", so the geometry of this bike definitely fit me quite a bit better than the Triple X would. It's a little bit of a smaller bike. I think it has 17s instead of 19s. And the suspension on this is so much better for off-roading. If you're a street rider and you want to go for something that's like great for street, that already comes with street tires, the Triple X is perfect for you. But if you like riding off-road, a little bit of hybrid riding, on-road, off-road, trail riding, then get one of the MX platforms. The suspension geometry is just so much better. It's gonna feel like an actual dirt bike compared to a electric street bike like the MX3. So yeah, guys, I'm probably gonna go for a little ride right now. As I said before, this is my first video, so bear with me. I'm trying to do this in one take. It might feel a little bit sloppy, but yeah, let's go for it. Once again, this is the 2024 Talaria MX3. It's looking good. All right. Let's go for a ride here. So I'm at 100%. I rode down here, so I did use a little bit of battery. I noticed with this bike, if you charge it all the way up to 100%, you can go like at least 2-3 miles on 100, and then it starts plateauing a little bit. I'd say I get like maybe a quarter mile, for every percent in eco. That's a very rough estimate. I'm sure if I did the math on that, it would be way off. So don't take my word for it. But yeah, if you charge it all the way, obviously charging these bikes up to 100% is not ideal. With lithium-ion batteries, you really do want to follow the 80-20 rule. Only charge up to 80% battery, only discharge down to 20% battery. Honestly, if I'm going for a long ride, I'll make sure to charge it. The idea is you don't want to leave it anywhere below 20% and above 80%. So if I'm going for a long ride, I'll charge it up to 100% right before I leave. And when I'm leaving it for the night, I try to leave it around, or I come back before I hit 20%. But if I'm leaving the battery for a long time, I try to let it sit around 60 to 40%. Anywhere between there is going to be healthy for the battery. It's just going to prolong your battery life. And yeah, just help your battery last a couple more cycles than it would if you were charging it all the way up to 100%, leaving it. Just avoid leaving it below 20% and above 80%. All right, let's get to the road here, and I'll do a little speed test for you guys. I know the LCD screen doesn't really show up on camera very well, so I'm just gonna have to kind of yell out. Oh, there's something going on up there. I'm just gonna have to yell out the speed that I'm getting to you guys. Like I said, the speedometer will read around 52, 53 miles an hour, when in reality it's like 48. Yeah, one thing about these bikes is the battery is really going to limit you. Like you can go really far on these bikes if you have discipline with your throttle and you know how to just chill in eco for a while and not go all out in sport. When you get the bike, it's going to be so tempting just to rip around full speed everywhere. To be honest, that's going to make the whole experience get pretty old pretty fast when you've reached the limits of the bike and you're hauling ass everywhere. I've used this thing to explore so much, and you can go really, really far if you just stretch the battery. All right. I'm just gonna try to get to a street up here where I can open her up a bit. The brakes do make a little bit of noise, but that's completely normal. To be honest, it helps people hear me on this silent bike. So just another thing about that gearbox issue. The one video that I saw about the dude that broke the gearbox to motor mount was some guy that comes from riding MX bikes, like big 450s and whatnot. Let me get past this mower. You're not gonna be able to hear me. Yeah, the guy that broke that bracket on his bike, he was riding this thing extremely hard, like dirt tracks, dirt jumps. I'm not saying these bikes aren't capable of doing that. It's just that they're not really meant to do that, to be honest. And most people don't ride like that. The gearbox broke after a lot of hard riding, and it wasn't even the gearbox itself. It was the mount that holds it to the motor, and one of the screws on that mount stripped out. So that's really the only catastrophic issue I've seen on these bikes. And the newer 2024 models I know are shipping with Loctite on those bolts, and they're torqued down to spec every single time. So that really shouldn't be an issue. I'm not sure how many bolts were holding it in, but I know on my bike the mount might have been upgraded because it has 2 bolts holding it in. And in the video I watched of the guy that destroyed his, it seemed like he had 1 bolt holding it in. So I'm not entirely sure if they've changed that or not. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, let's get a little speed test after this car. It's gonna be downhill, so it's not gonna be too accurate. Yeah, great acceleration. At 40, 50, 54, so I'd say it probably tops out at around maybe 55, 46 downhill. That was a pretty big hill, so I'm gonna be conservative and say flat ground, probably GPS 48 miles an hour, 49, which, to be honest, the difference between the MX4 is marginal. You're really losing like maybe 2 miles an hour with this thing with very similar acceleration. Let's cross here. I believe the battery on this is a 60 volt, so very similar specs to the MX4. But yeah, I mean, if you have the extra cash, I definitely recommend picking up that MX4. One more thing I want to mention is police attention and just attention from the general public. So I've been stopped on this bike a total of 1 time, and I ride this in the city all the time. The cops pass me all the time and they seem to not really care. But the one time I was stopped, I was speeding, to be honest, and he stopped me specifically for my speed, not because of the bike. And he did mention that these bikes aren't allowed on road. He was pretty chill. He just told me to keep it to the sidewalks. I agreed. He did give me a written warning for my speed, but on that written warning, he didn't mention anything about the bike. So in my opinion, cops, especially in city areas, have much bigger fish to fry. Like, they're not really concerned about electric bikes going around. And then attention from the general public. I mean, people are always so curious about this thing. I get so many questions of people asking what it is. Is it a dirt bike? Is it a mountain bike? And the attention is great. Honestly, I love that people are interested in it, but to be honest, it will draw some unnecessary attention, especially when you're city riding. So definitely be wary about that. And theft is obviously a pretty big issue with these bikes. So just make sure you're very aware whenever you're stopped, especially in a very busy area, looking out for not only police, but potential thieves. Just use common sense. I mean, if someone, like if you're driving at 30 miles an hour down a road, someone pulls in front of you and slams the brakes, maybe it's a good time to hit a UE and maybe hit some dirt, go somewhere they can't go, just to get away from them. I'm just kind of rambling at this point, but it's my first video. I just wanted to show you guys the bike. Give me a little rip. Here's a little uphill we got here. 45. Get up here. Oh yeah. Yeah, I forgot to mention the tires I got on here. So I'm sure if you've watched any videos about Talarias or Surons, you know exactly what these are. These are Shinko 241s, I believe. A great little dual sport tire. I do a lot of trail riding, and these are fantastic for both trail and on-road riding. I noticed with the stock tires, and you will definitely notice this too, I believe they were CST tires. At around 40 to 50 miles an hour, your front wheel is going to start wobbling. Those tires are not balanced properly. They're a very cheap tire. Honestly, Talaria, like I said about the fluids earlier, Talaria definitely cheaped out on quite a bit of stuff with these bikes, which, I mean, I'm slightly grateful for that because it helps keep the base price low, but it also makes the after purchase maintenance quite high. You're going to have to buy a lot of stuff to fix those issues. And yeah, I mean, it's the price you have to pay for getting a cheaper alternative to a Suron. I'm not entirely sure if Suron uses different fluids in their bikes. I do believe they do use CST tires, but yeah. Another thing that reminds me, if you're considering this bike over a Suron, these bikes are quite a bit heavier than the Suron. I believe the Suron's like 110 pounds with battery. This is over 120 pounds with the battery. I'm a slightly bigger guy, you know, 6'2". The bigger bike doesn't really bother me that much, but if you're smaller, if you're younger, maybe under 6 foot, I'd probably recommend looking at the Surons. They're a lot lighter, a lot more nimble. If you're a trick rider or a trials rider of some kind, definitely look into the Surons. They're a lot smaller. You can do a lot more with a smaller bike. But yeah, I'm just gonna keep riding here until the battery gets low. I'm at 99%. We've gone 2 miles total on the odometer, that's what it claims, which is just like the miles an hour. The odometer is going to be slightly off, but yeah, I usually take off like 0.1 miles from every mile that I get on this thing. So if we were at 2 miles right now, I'd say we're at 1.9. It's not insanely far off, but just keep that in mind. The mileage reading and the miles per hour reading are not going to be 100% accurate, but that's an issue with every Talaria, not just the MX3. Yeah, I'm gonna keep the GoPro rolling, but I'm gonna put some music on and enjoy the ride for a bit. I might hit some trails, who knows.